Hi, it's Liz from Lohas Canada. It is the beginning of February, and this is a podcast about knitting, about some sewing, some other crafty things, looking at more eco-friendly options. So, as I said, it's the beginning of February, and I've been up to quite a bit, but it seems very scattered. So before I get into it, I forgot I wanted to show you something that I think could probably help you. I mean, it's been really helping me. Is I did not make these, but these are compression gloves. I noticed with my hands, I'll take these ones off. I think my right hand's the worst, and it's also genetics, but my index finger and my pinky are slowly starting to, on the first knuckle, are slowly starting to bend a little bit. So I think with crafting and doing all those things, but it's genetics too, because my mom and my grandma has it, and my dad was like, oh, my pinky is also a little bit curved as well. So I was looking at different options because I you know, young-ish, so I want to keep on with all my handicrafts, and I was thinking, oh man, and when I got these in the mail, I ordered these in December and they came mid-January, and I got them and I was like, they just look like regular gloves. I was kind of disappointed just because, like, I was thinking I could probably make these, like, why did I order them? But then I wore them at nighttime. I did try it during the day to knit with them, and my hands are quite long. Like, I get often told that I should play the piano because I have piano hands, so they don't go quite over the knuckle, or the first knuckle, but I thought it was maybe to provide a little bit of stability. It doesn't really. I can't knit with them, so I've been wearing them at nighttime, and the first night I wore them, so I think you have to probably wear them for more than an hour to feel the effects. But what it does is there is padding in between all the fingers, and so it just allows circulation. So I remember waking up, I slept with them, and then I woke up and I was like, I can feel my fingertips. It's not like I couldn't feel them before, but it's just that the blood was circulating in them, that I could feel that they were getting circulated, that they had oxygen in them. So I think like, for me, it's just, I've noticed it, my fingers getting a bit straighter, and I've also been looking into arthritic rings that you can get, and you can actually, in Canada, you can go to I think it's, I don't know, you can go to one of your, like, physiotherapists or something. They'll do a bunch of measurements, and you can get custom made ones once they have the measurements, so that it gives you support for keeping your fingers straight during the day. So I just thought, because we are all so crafty and that we're, you know, we have to take care of our hands, these have been really, really amazing, just providing that circulation. And even though I do, you know, finger and arm stretches and stuff like that, it's good to get that circulation going. So I am on the west side of Canada, so I'm on Vancouver Island. I'm on a place called Parksville, and what I'm wearing, it started to snow again here at the end of January, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna knit myself a scarf. So I just knitted, I think I cast on, I don't know, 36 stitches or something, and it's a pattern that I had for when I did a sock, and I just labeled it as a fluffy cloud. So I don't actually know the pattern name, but it is very soft and squishy, and this is the Cascade yarn, I think it's 128 in the Shire color. So if you've watched my Christmas gift videos, my knitting ones, or I did some sewing in there too, but it's the same yarn as that one, and same colorway, because I really liked this one. And I was a little bit worried after I knit it, because my coat is beige, that the contrast colors would kind of clash. But I also realized my mask is actually this color green, so when I wear my mask and this, I color coordinate. It's funny. I must have subconsciously thought of that. And then this one is just what I made last year, my first sweater by Marley Bird. So yeah, it's pilling because it's alpaca, but I still wear this a ton. So we will get into, what else do I want to show you? I have quite a bit, so we'll get into the top things. So for knitting, I started knitting a hat. Now I am using 100% merino. This is a cascade yarn as well, and it's a fingering yarn, and for some reason I thought it would be a really great idea to use a fingering yarn with like size 0 needles. And it's taken me forever, but I actually have learned quite a bit on this hat, because what happened is, you can see these needles are super tiny, just like ridiculously tiny. And so I knit probably about an inch or two, and then my needles, I woke up and my needles had broken, and so I actually learned how to pick back up the stitches, and they had dropped some. So I was learning a bunch of different techniques how to correct the stitches, and where before, if something happened like that, like on this garment, I just kept on going because I just needed that, like, I just need to finish it. I don't need it to be perfect. But for this hat, I'm giving it to my dad. I wanted it to be, it's going to be visible, right, on his head. So I want it to be perfect. So perfect for me. So I just ended up learning how to fix it. So it's probably like a 30-hour hat, though. It's, in the end, it's going to turn out to be. The needles are slippery, so that doesn't help as well. I think these are the Knit Picks ones, and they just, with the yarn, because the yarn is also superwash yarn. So my dad and me both have the same size head, so I did 22 inches round. So well, I did a swatch, and I think it turned out to be 198 stitches I cast it on, but then I wanted doing a knit to purl 1, and so I think I did 199 stitches casted on. So I just casted this on this week. This is the Dragon Horde pattern, and I forget the name of it, but it has the moons on them, and I'll put it down below. And I'm using a fingering weight, and this is the yarn that I got, I think, last month from the Small Bird Workshop. So they're local to me. And so I'm using these two colors. And so what's been happening is it's a top down, and I have just finished the collar, and I'm knitting the smallest size. I was a little bit worried. I did fit this over my head. It fits all right. And it does have a pattern on it, so I am learning about color work. So for this one, I was a little bit concerned because I have done color work now. This is going to be my second project, and I am learning quite a bit about color work, and I think it's more about like the terminology. So like talking about jogging, so when the stitches don't line up together, because what I figured is that they talk about that when you're actually knitting, you're knitting a spiral up. So when you go back to the first round, it doesn't match up because you're already on that spiral to the next one. So I think I just had to get my head around that, and like different jogging techniques, just so that if you're having the stitches kind of line up a little bit better. I was watching a lot of Arnie and Carlos, and they were also saying, like, you know what, it's not such a huge deal. You can do some, you can block it out, you can move it up, and move the yarn, switch it over, like cross them when you come back to the round, to your starting stitch. So they weren't too concerned of it. They said also with a lot of Norwegian patterns, they start and stop, and it'll be underneath your arm, so it's not like it's on the front or the back. But I wanted to learn some more techniques, and it's literally like about the jargon. And I was watching a lot of YouTube videos about Norwegian knitting from Arnie and Carlos, because they also talk about tension. They talk about that in Norwegian style there isn't a thing about tension. So I talked about this in the last podcast, that with Norwegian knitting, that how they hold it, they don't have their finger up because that'll create uneven tension. You want it as close to the needles as possible. I was watching a video today, and because I'm starting to get into larger floats at the back, so I think that's another thing. I was like, I don't even know what these are called, and just like learning that terminology, right? So I have two colors, and I had a pattern where it was, say, 3 blue and 1 gray, which is fine. So you just cross them over. But if you start getting to maybe more than 4 stitches, then you want to start encasing it. Otherwise you're going to have these big, long white or gray floats or blue floats. So it's just long pieces of yarn. So they were talking about how just to cross them, say every 3 stitches or whatever. So depending on your pattern. So say if I had a block of color work, right? It's if I had a block of gray and then maybe 10 stitches of gray, 10 stitches of blue. If I was doing something like that, you're going to have long floats of 10, you know, so every 4th stitch, then you would twist your yarn with at the back, and then maybe another, you know, another 4th stitch, and then you would have 2, and then that would be fine. But if you were continuously doing that, they talk about it a lot better on, and then to give you demos, but if you were continuously building up that stripe with those same colors, then on your next round you wouldn't do 4, like you'd still have the 10 block, but you would do 3 stitches, then change color. Otherwise the color, if you continue to do 4 and then 4 and then 2 and then you're changing color, if you continue to do that, then the color will actually peek through. So I think it's just a lot more information than I was thinking of. So far so good. Her pattern is so easy to read. So I am liking that. It's very, very beginner friendly, I would say. Not maybe the color work part, but just reading the pattern, it's like, do this, where I'm not trying to interpret it by any means. And she has definitions as well at the top, and I don't have to go look at them. She actually has them written out. So I showed you last time, so I could show you on this what the jogging. So I tried to even block it out. So the jogging, it's uneven, right? Even with blocking. So that's what that is, because it's spiraling up. So there's different techniques. You can take the the right stitch from the one below, and then you knit them 2 together. Make sure you're not making one, but actually picking up the stitch below. And that will help with the jogging. Some people do like to do slip stitch, but when Arnie and Carlos was talking about that, they were saying, well, that's actually gonna weaken your integrity of your fabric because you're slipping that stitch and it's not an actual stitch. So it just depends, not a big deal maybe if it's a hat, but if you're knitting like a sweater and it's a heavier material, it might put more stress and it might start to sag there. So with this, he would probably, I would imagine they recommended when I started sewing in like the edges and stuff, I could have aggressively blocked it, but then also twisted the yarn when I changed the color and got toward it. So it's just a lesson learned. I've been wearing this hat a ton because we have still been going snowshoeing, and yeah, it's been really nice to wear, nice and warm. I'm glad I only did 2, like the 2 brim. I don't think I needed 3 at all. I was cooking. I haven't been up there when it's super windy yet, so maybe that would be a factor, but it covers my ears and I'm happy. So with that, I was thinking, well, some days up on the mountain or even just here, it's pretty hot out, but sometimes it gets really windy here. Sometimes at night it's just howling. And so I don't necessarily need the full hat, like even if I just had this part. So what I've decided, because I had extra yarn, and this is 100% merino superwash from Norway, and it's like Baby Lux, I think it's called. Anyhow, so I've started to do another hat, but what I'm going to do is just to do a double brim as well. So right now I'm working on this side, knitting it all the way up to the fold, and then I think I'm going to make it a little bit shorter because I can measure now this motif of the color work and just decide I'm going to do it like this, because my end of my brim hat, like where I folded it up, is here, so it doesn't have to be that high. But I can also, yeah, measure my head. And then I'll do the color work, and then I'll fold it over again and sew it, and then I'll just have like a really nice headband. So that has been fun because I get to use up my leftover yarn. I barely used any of that white, so that's a bonus that I can use it on this one. And then I could also get a different color as well and then make a different... I did actually pick up some black in the same yarn. That's my only acquisition, I think. So I can do just a straight basic hat, and then if I want to, like a black headband or something, or choose a different pattern too. I really do like this pattern though. It's very, very nice. So I do have one finished, sort of finished garment. So this mannequin is not my proportional size, so I still haven't fixed that. So this mannequin's much bigger than I am. But I have finished this Skeindeer Haust. So Skeindeer Designs, and this is Haust, H-A-U-S-T. And it's a cardigan. I learned so much from this. I picked it back up after Christmas because I put it on hold to knit all those Christmas gifts, and I just had the neck collar and then the 2 sleeves. So I'll put in some... I did knit the sleeve and one of the sleeves, and then I had to rip it back once I started doing the other sleeve because I realized that first sleeve was not correct. I should show you the sleeve because I'm going to be ripping out one of the sleeves because it was my first set-in sleeve and I realized I did it incorrect. So this is the sleeve that I first did, and you can tell it's very, very like puffy. It's not fitted, and I was just thinking, oh, it's just a puffy sleeve. And then I did the second sleeve, and in the picture it is a fitted sleeve. So it's very slick, very like a well-fitted sleeve. So I've run out of yarn on this side, so I'm going to be ripping out this side. So the reason why I believe my mistake was the short row shaping. I ended up thinking it was a kind of a back and forth thing, so it was kind of more of I was starting to form a rectangle and then joining it, and you can, I don't know if you can see, but there is right here, there's some like where I attached it, so it's kind of bunching all up together. So it's great because that's like a trend. It's a trendy thing right now, like puffy sleeves. But when I started to do this side, I realized, oh, it's because with the short row shaping, you're picking up over the gap. So you're incorporating it into the gap, where this side with the gap, I just left the gap and then turned my work over and started to go the other way and then attached it later. So I think that is why. So I'm going to be ripping out this side today and then doing this on the other side. So now I know what to do now. Alright, so I have already blocked it and it sits really nice on me. Even though I tried to do my arms the correct size, like the same size, one of them is a bit looser than the other, but I don't think you can tell. And then I just need to put buttons on it, and then it shall be officially done. So I have to choose some buttons. So for me, it does go up at the front, so it does touch. And yeah, it's just got a really nice some detail at the bottom. I don't think this yarn is the best yarn to showcase it, just because it's more of a drapier yarn. Than what she was using, that was more of a stiffer yarn, but it's pretty nice against the skin. And then I just made it whatever length of yarn that I had left. Alright, so I did show you this vest many last year, or the year before. Anyhow, so I ended up adding a bit more yarn to the bottom, but I guess I added too many rows. I don't know how to pick up. It's such a itchy, like a woolly wool. It's not super itchy, especially because it's a vest. So what I'm going to do is, I don't really like this whole fan thing, so I'm going to take some of the yarn and kind of make it into something like that. I don't really know. But I wanted to do something a bit different with it. I didn't like the length at all, so I wanted to add a bit of length just so that I could it was just rising up a little bit too much on the back. I don't think I would have worn it. So I still have a bit more work to do on this, but I think I'll be happier with it in the end. And this wool was from Salt Spring Island. They have a co-op over there. I wouldn't say it's super scratchy wool, but it's definitely like a woolly wool. Like, it was so hard for me to pick up those stitches. And I was using, thank goodness, my Prim needles. So these are Prim 4.5 needles, and it has like a metal cord attached, thankfully, because what was it? Oh, it was this sweater. I was using the bamboo ones, and they have the plastic cord attached to them, and several times I had to stop and hot glue gun the plastic cord in, and then that little tip broke where it connected, and I was trying to like whittle a new tip so that I could connect the plastic to, but it was horrible. So I ended up, I don't recommend using those bamboo ones that are attached with the plastic ones. I don't even know what they called. They didn't even have them at the store when I went back to try to grab another one. Alright, so I think that's all like knitting stuff. I did pick up some lanolin enriched laundry concentrate because I was using before just some Dawn dish soap, so I thought I would actually, considering I'm starting to knit a lot more garments and stuff, actually spend the money. So this is a no rinse one. I did get the unscented because they did have lavender, but it seems my skin reacts a little bit to lavender. So yeah, I will show you a couple books and then we will get into some sewing after that. Alright, so I went to the thrift store a bunch of times and I got the Disney Book of Knitting. So this is kind of an older book because some of the characters do look like the old Disney characters. They're not as like crisp and fresh, but they have the charted patterns. Like you can even see Mickey or Minnie looking kind of different here. Like she looks a little bit like Goofy. So I think it's just like an older book, but it does have the charted patterns. So I thought I would give that a go, like some really cute ones. Like I like Goofy. And I picked up Sprint, a guide for spinners worsted wools with a drop spindle. So I do have a drop spindle and I did pick one up a couple years ago. I just haven't used it, didn't know how to use it, didn't even know what it was. So you know, just keep on adding things to my collection. But yeah, so that was kind of interesting. And where is it? I did pick up today at the thrift store. Here it is. This drop spindle, but I think you hang it on a hook, like it has a hook here. So I don't know, I picked it up for only a couple bucks today at the thrift store. So I think, you know, just the thoughts that are happening. Alright, so the next one is called Spinning, and it's from the Hand Weavers Guild of America. Now, I don't plan to get into spinning besides the drop spinning, but what I wanted from this were the techniques. They also talk about the different wools in here, and I think that's what I was definitely more interested in, is how the different wools play up. So, like, if I have a 100% merino, if it's considered like an alpaca, it's a very different wool, and what it's used for, so that I can make better choices, I think, with my yarn to suit the project. So that was a big thing why I picked that up. They do also have some drop spinning as well, some techniques in there, and then talking about the different types of spinning wheels and maybe which one's better for different fibers. And it did have some amazing pictures, like the history of linen, growing silkworms at home, just like a whole bunch of different things. And I like to pick up these older books just so that they seem to have a lot more information. I don't know about you guys, but I find that like the older books are the good concrete ones that I'm like, yes, this is what I've been looking for. Okay, And my last knitting book, which is not a knitting book, is called The Blanket. So it's the Hudson Bay Point Blanket. I think it was produced, like, this book in 2000, it was published in 2002. So it's nice because it has some more grammatically correct words in here for their history. And it was very, very interesting because they talk about how they would trade the blankets using, like, for beaver pellets, of course, but so they would put little, they had, the original ones is not this one. So the original ones would have a stripe at the top, a stripe at the bottom. So they would have a stripe at the top and a stripe at the bottom, and then these points. So these are the original HBC blankets, and the points are determined by the trading. So they would say in the book, they would put, say, 2 points for a child size blanket, and that would be 2 pellets. And the First Nations people would buy them and wear them as clothes or give them away at potlatches. So whatever points was on there would be the trading amount per beaver pellet, and just depending on the region and the time. So those were the original ones. And then the colors started to change because of the queen and her colors. So that's why they got the matriarchal colors of the green, the red, the yellow, and then the blue is actually indigo. And they were also saying that the different First Nations people liked the different colors, and they actually specified which colors the First Nations people liked in what areas. And then later on, they got these colors together. First Nations people would also piece together the blankets because they would last for such a long time, but they would get torn or whatever. Like, they just were, you know, could be very rough with them if you're using them underneath your saddle or anything like that. So they would piece them together, and then it became fashionable later on to actually make coats out of them for people to buy, and it was fashionable to have it on your bed as the top sheet and stuff. So this is what this is what I grew up with knowing. So I actually didn't know that it came with a single stripe. So if I ever get into weaving, my sister does have a loom, but I don't think that's going to be happening for a while. There is actually how they made it. So it changed over time. So originally they were making them, and so that was just one color, and they would change the color to put it in. And then later on they would actually just make it, and then they would dye the color over top of it. So then they would just, you know, make this big white blanket and then dye on top. And then they were saying also HBC doesn't make the blankets, right? HBC is just a trading post. So it was these mills in England and other places in France, and HBC was just a place to trade it. They didn't actually make it. So it was kind of funny, and there's different levels of quality. All right, I found it. It was in the 1800s, a blanket factory had a vat under the men's washroom to collect urine, to be used much as an astringent to remove oils from the woolen clothes before the woolen cloth before it was dyed. Today, a mixture of soda and mild soap is used. So yeah, if I ever get into weaving, that would be kind of neat to, like, try to weave some HBC blankets. Alright, so that's it for my knitting. We will get into some sewing, and I'll show you the first thing. I got this big basket at the thrift store, quite large, and I wanted to get some knitting stuff in it to be able just to have it there, and I didn't have to have it big or something soft, especially with this project because I've already broken the needles once. I didn't want to have to keep on buying it, so I just knitted, or I didn't knit, I sewed. This is just white muslin. I think it's bleached muslin, and I should have, like, calculated it, the depth here and the width and stuff, but I didn't. And so I ended up just having to piece it all together. It looks fine now that it's in the basket and stuff, but my seams are quite horrible on this, but it looks, I mean, it looks good. I'm the only one going to be using it, so I really didn't take an account for like the width this way and then also the width at the bottom, because I wanted it to sit flat at the bottom, so it wasn't just as easy as cutting out a square and then cutting out the squares at the bottom to make a box bottom. I had to add more height. I basically needed to add the bottom height to that as well. So that was just like, I think I had 5 pieces. So I had one for, because I already cut out a square thinking, oh, it'll be enough, and then I started being like, oh no, that's not. So I had one piece for this side, one piece for this side, one piece for that side, and then a piece in the middle, and then I had 2 additional pieces for each of these sides. So it's a little bit of a mismatch basket, but it works, and no one's going to be checking that out too much. I also sewed so a couple more reusable pads, so these have been super helpful. I've been testing out different materials. I will make a complete video once I figure really out what's the best types of materials and how many layers, because the layers are really what makes it more sweatier and like what's in it, and this has no polyester in it, so I'm looking for more natural materials where I could get something dry wick or like absorbent or anything like that, but I'm really just trying to look for natural materials, because we all want natural materials. So I made 2 more of those, the same kind, and then I sewed, it's kind of like a horse blanket, which I'm calling. So Fabricland in January was having the sale where you get buy 1 meter, get another free. So I ended up getting 2 meters of this fabric, and it's a fleece, and I don't know why, but I cut it in half, which was really silly, and then I created a whole blanket, and so it's just a big poncho. So I did it online because I'm just wearing it around nowhere. And like if I was gonna wear this out, I would have made it a lot cuter. Right now it just hangs in the front. It's just a big square in the front. I would have, you know, made it a triangle and then lined it. But this is just kind of like throw it over some pajamas, make it extra cozy and warm. And as they had that sale, they had some amazing plaids happening. And so I got another plaid. I forget how many meters I got, but I made it into just a nice cozy, I just folded it over and then sewed it, and I just made it into a really nice cozy blanket just for sitting on the chair or whatever. So I put it on the mannequin so you can see a bit better. So arms would go here, and then I was thinking I could sew up the sides and it would just be a little bit cozier. I was thinking also clasps or like snaps I could do as well. So that's another option, but I haven't really decided because right now it's just kind of all exposed. But yeah, if I wanted to make it a bit cuter or outside, I would have made it more into like a V at the front and then obviously lined it, or gotten that other material that's like shirt fleece, because then it has it on both sides. It doesn't have this white stuff on them. Alright, so my other thing is I did finish my quilt on my bed, so yeah, that was good. I hand stitched some of that and I was just hand sewing it closed. So I will show you this thing. So I've been in an early childhood education schooling, and so I'm always now looking for things like, I basically want to make a Mary Poppins bag. So I'm gathering up all my ideas. It's just so much information and then trying to do school. So right now I'm just, for me, I don't know about you, but for me, the more busier I am, the more things I do, because it's just like I have to get everything in priority. So right now, that's what I'm doing. Collecting information, sewing stuff, and then trying to do as much as I can. Don't know why my brain's like that. But so I was looking online, and so these are just my markers. So this was just a prototype to see if it would actually work. And so I just used a piece of fabric and I folded it, or I sewed the wrong sides together, and then I just ended up turning it right side out. This is just the bottom, so I just folded it up and then sewed it. It was too large at the top, and so I just folded this down. And but I, you know, if I measured it correctly, I also didn't make make enough. So I just sewed, and I just used some chalk, and I just used the lines and just sewed it, put the pen in, some marker. So yeah, they fit perfectly. And then I had this tie, so when I sewed the right sides together at the very beginning, I sewed a tie in as well. So just a really nice long one, and then you can roll it up. And I didn't measure this, I just was kind of on a whim. This only holds 26 or 27 markers, and it came with 30, so some are just floating, but I think that worked out really well. For some reason, I was also like, I don't know if this is actually going to work. Like, I was doubting myself. So I'm going to get some of those rectangle crayons, because those are really great for kids, or the bigger crayons, and then make this. I was also thinking this fabric, I think, is a little bit too busy, because when you look at the crayons, then you're contrasting it with the fabric. So I was thinking for the crayons and stuff, what I might do is just use a plain muslin, and then figure out, I don't even know if it's going to work because these are quite bumpy, but that I can embroider beforehand, like crayons, so it says crayons on the outside, and then just have it really plain and simple, and the colors will be the feature. Because I think a lot of times I'm overstimulated, especially if I go into a yarn shop or even a fabric shop. Like, it takes you a while to process everything, and then you just have to like zone in on a fabric or something and just kind of like try to process it. So I think if I just keep it really simple and not stimulate it too much, I think that's probably the better bet. But it was really nice to be able to, it was really easy to do this. Like, you know how you like psych yourself up and you're like, oh, this is going to take for a long time? No, it didn't. I found this book. It's called Harmony and Dress. So at the books, or at the thrift store. So it's talking about like the types of clothes that women wore, how they sewed it, what is good taste. So I thought it was just kind of interesting, clothes suitability. So I haven't read this one yet, but it is now in my collection. So when I see those things at the thrift store, I just snatch them up because I usually don't see them again. So I think that's it for my sewing. I just want to show you a cute bag I found at the thrift store that's now going to be home to my knitting projects. So I found this bag at the thrift store, really cute. Again, they were having 75% off, so it was like $2. And it's quite large, and they still have the tags and stuff. So yeah, I'm just gonna put a bunch of my yarn in there, and that'll be, because it's just now living in boxes, so I do want something a bit more enclosed so nothing kind of gets eaten. And because I'm on eco-friendly journey and thinking about doing this Mary Poppin box, I do want to show you some projects that I have been thinking about and what I possibly am going to do with them. Alright, so it's still in its bag, but I ordered these. They're hardwood blocks, and I have a square one and then also a circle one. And then I do have another size that's just a smaller circle. So I was thinking like matching games, so like modes of transportation, camping equipment. I was trying to think very practical things, even like fruit and veggies you could do as well. So, and just different sizes depending on the different ages. So I think I can do that with vinyl and some Mod Podge afterwards, or some sort of clear, I don't know if Mod Podge is toxic. I gotta look into that, but that is my plan. So I was able to get these hardwood ones. So they're not the plywood ones, because the plywood ones are definitely a lot thinner, and they just, for my opinion, they don't look that great. And it's a Canadian company who makes them, so always the best. So I want to show you two books I did find for these Mary Poppins projects I'm going to be doing and gathering inspiration from. I did find Pinterest is okay. It gives you some inspiration, it gives you, but it's a very repetitive, and you do have to really look for certain activities that are actually quality activities, not just painting or something, right? Like they have to have, I don't know, for me, in my brain it has to have like some sort of purpose. It doesn't always, but like it can be crafty and stuff, but that we're always thinking about movement or something. So I found this book at the thrift store. It's Stephen Kane's. It's toy books, so it's all using like things around your house, like toilet paper rolls, cardboard paper or whatever, cardboard boxes, all those good stuff. Just because, you know, we shouldn't have to be buying all these new and brand new things for them to play with, right? Like, they'll play with sticks and cardboard boxes. So that's kind of the mindset of things that I'm looking for, you know, like doing a spider web outside, all you need is string, right? So thinking of those crafty ideas, so looking for older books. And then we also did some science experiments or a science class, and I was trying to look for, again, better ones than I was finding. You really have to do a dive into some quality activities that don't require a lot of materials. So my mindset is also like thinking about like an outdoor daycare. You don't have a lot of supplies there. What can you do? So I found this book. It's called David Suzuki and Catherine Vander Linden Eco Fun. So it's talking more about like climate change and like things you can do to for science experiments to outdoors using some, I mean, these are plastic, but they're serving a second purpose. So yeah, I've been slowly acquiring those, and I was thinking, oh man, because I'm gonna make this Mary Poppins bag. I know I am. So I was thinking, and I can make it any size, so I can actually make the bottom quite wide, and I think I'm going to be using this old curtain fabric. I'll have to see if I have enough of it, but basically it's going to be a big carpet bag, and I can have different compartments in it, and I haven't mapped it out or anything like that. I don't even know how to make a carpet bag, but you know, I can always learn. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if at the bottom of the carpet bag there was an extra compartment where you could store some of these books in, so then everything that, I mean, it would probably be pretty heavy in the end, but you would have this carpet bag full of goodiness. You know, we keep on thinking we need to keep on buying, but even in my like early childhood education activity, I was like, here's my toilet paper roll bowling set, you know? So this is quite long, and I hope you guys enjoyed what was happening, and I hope you guys are doing well and getting more crafty, and it's coming up to spring, so there's more crafty things probably going to be happening at springtime. Summertime, who knows? I'm going to be on a practicum in summer, so might be also slowed down by then, but it, yeah, who knows? So I hope you guys are all doing well, and I shall talk to you later. Bye!